Hi, before we find out what happens next, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It takes a second and really help us grow. Out of the story.
This is the story of how my sister stole $72,000 and how my 9-year-old daughter became the one who exposed the truth. You won't believe how it all ended. By the time I was 19, I could carry a double shift on 4 hours of sleep and keep a teenager from burning down our apartment with a hair straightener. That teenager was my sister, Ivy. Our parents left a note and a rent past due. I left a scholarship and took 2 jobs. People called it noble. It wasn't. It was survival with a neat bow on top. Years later, I'd built a rhythm that passed for stable. Mornings started with Chloe's cereal bowl clinking against the counter and my phone buzzing with delivery orders from the cafe. Afternoons were my receptionist hours at the clinic, where I learned to say the earliest available appointment, like a lullaby. Nights were lunchbox assembly lines and homework and the soft thud of bills stacking into a someday pile. Ivy stayed. She always stayed. On my couch, in my fridge, in my calendar. She floated from job to job, calling it flexibility. I called it gravity with my address. "I'll pick up extra shifts," she'd say, yawning past noon. "I've got a lead on this boutique. Cute clothes, easy hours." "Hours don't pay rent if you don't work them," I'd answer. And Chloe would glance up from her math workbook like a referee who'd seen this match too many times. Chloe was 9 going on 40. She knew how to reset the Wi-Fi and how to look an adult in the eye until they told the truth. When I faltered, she steadied me with a hand on my wrist and a sentence like, "Mom, we're okay." It should have been my job to say it. She said it better. The number on my savings app became a kind of prayer. $72,000. Not glamorous, not life-changing to anyone with a trust fund. But to me, it was a front door I could lock that didn't belong to a landlord. It was a bedroom for Chloe that didn't share a wall with a neighbor's television. It was the first proof I'd written my own script after a lifetime reading other people's lines. "House money," Chloe would whisper when we moved it from checking. "No touch." "No touch," I'd echo, tapping my phone screen like it was made of glass and good intentions. That spring, Ivy moved from the couch to the second bedroom because I was tired of stepping on her boots in the dark. She celebrated by bringing home a duffel bag full of clothing from a sample sale, and 3 friends who thought my kitchen was a nightclub. "Keep it down," I told them. "Chloe has a spelling test." Ivy rolled her eyes. "You act like this place is a monastery." "Try library," Chloe muttered, not looking up from her list. "But with worse lighting." They laughed. I didn't. The week after, Ivy came home with a smile I'd never seen on her. It wasn't the grin she used when she'd sweet-talked her way out of a parking ticket. It was softer, unpracticed. "What?" I asked, wary. "I met someone," she said. "Ryan." "You met a person," I corrected. "Congratulations. Does he have a last name and a W-2? She scowled. "Don't start. He's different." Chloe looked up. "Different how?" Ivy twirled a strand of hair around her finger, the way she did when she was lying or in love. "He listens." "To what?" I wanted to ask. "To your stories? To your excuses? To your footsteps walking toward my kitchen?" Instead, I said, "Bring him to dinner. Friday. House rules apply." "House rules?" Ivy wrinkled her nose. "No vapes, no politics, no asking Chloe to be your alibi." I pointed the spatula at her. "And if he leaves a ring on my table, I'm billing him." Friday came wrapped in the smell of lemon chicken and the sound of Chloe practicing vocabulary under her breath. I set 3 plates, then added a 4th with the same motion you use to add a chair at the last minute for a cousin who calls from the driveway. Ivy spent 40 minutes on eyeliner and 10 minutes scolding me for using cloth napkins like we're the Kennedys. The knock came exactly at 6. I opened the door to a man with a smile that had seen a mirror. Mid-30s, neat stubble, jacket that looked expensive enough to mean something, but not so expensive he'd have to explain it. "Ryan Cutter," he said, offering a hand. His grip was firm, a sales pitch. "You must be Dana." "Must I?" I asked, dry. He laughed like I'd told a better joke than I had. He was charming in the way of men who collect favors like currencies. He complimented the apartment. Cozy, great natural light. Complimented Chloe's vocab list. Ambidextrous at 9, impressive. Complimented my chicken, lemon without bitterness, that's an art. Ivy floated around him, glowing. "Where do you work, Ryan?" I asked, pouring tea. "Consulting," he said, which is 5 letters too short to be a real answer. "Helping small businesses scale." "Which ones?" Chloe asked. He waved a hand. "Different clients, different weeks. I'm a fixer." "You must be good at it," I said. "I am," he said, meeting my eyes like it was a contest. "But nothing's as hard as what you do." "What do I do?" I tilted my head. "Hold a family together," he said, and Ivy squeezed his arm like he'd recited poetry. He made conversation the way magicians do. Keep the hands moving so the audience doesn't see the pocket. He asked Chloe about school and made careful mental notes when she mentioned our neighborhood. He asked Ivy about her job prospects and nodded as if he were interviewing her. Then he turned to me. "So, Dana," he said lightly, as if we'd known each other for years, "you've done the impossible. Single mom, 2 jobs, a kid who knows words I didn't learn until college. What's the next big goal? House? College fund? Both?" "House," I said before Chloe could speak. "By winter, if the market doesn't laugh at me." He grinned, sympathetic. "Markets always laugh. But there are strategies." Chloe's pencil paused. "What kind of strategies?" Ryan chuckled. "Boring adult ones, not dinner talk." I leaned back. "I can stomach boring. Try me." He lifted his tea. "Another time." After dessert, he offered to do the dishes. I let him. People reveal themselves at sinks if you watch long enough. He rinsed efficiently, stacked plates like he'd practiced, glanced over his shoulder to see if I was watching. I was. "Thank you," I said. "My pleasure," he answered, and made it sound like a promise. When he and Ivy left for a movie, Chloe stood by the window, peeking through the blinds. "He smiles too much," she said. "That's a thing?" I asked. "It is when people use it like a weapon." She scribbled a word on her vocab list, inscrutable, and underlined it twice. "You didn't like him." I didn't say that. "You didn't have to." I kissed the top of her head. "Go brush your teeth, detective." I cleared the table, wiped the counters, checked the locks. Routine pushes back the dark if you do it with enough intention. My phone lit up with the savings app out of habit. 72,000. I stared at the number until it turned into possibility again. At 11, Ivy's key turned in the lock. She whispered goodnights that smelled like buttered popcorn and hotel lobby cologne. I was still on the couch, a book open to a page I hadn't read. "So?" I asked. "So what?" She flopped into the armchair. "He's great." "He's a stranger," I said. "And you've brought me strangers before." "Because you scare away the bad ones," she teased. "I scare away the ones who think yes is the only word a woman knows." She rolled her eyes. "You don't have to like him." "I don't," I agreed. "I just have to protect the 2 people under my roof." "You and Chloe?" Ivy's mouth tilted. "You really think I'm not one of them?" "If you are," I said quietly. "Act like it." She opened her mouth, then shut it. The clock on the microwave blinked 12, a lie it had been telling for months. Ivy sighed, softer. "He wants to help," she said. "He knows things about money." "Everyone who knows things about money wants to tell you for a fee," I said. "We're not paying." He didn't ask. She stood, pulled her hair into a ponytail. "You could at least try." "I tried," I said. I let him in my kitchen. Ivy walked to the hallway, paused. "You trust me, right?" I looked at her, the girl who once wore my hoodie to sleep because it smelled like safety, the woman who still left her boots where I'd trip over them. My mouth went to the place where the easiest answer lived. It didn't make it out. She watched me not answer. Then she smiled, sweet and sharp. "I'll prove it," she said. "You'll see." She disappeared into the dark, her door clicking shut like punctuation. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from an unknown number slid across the screen. "Nice meeting you tonight. Quick question, what bank do you use?" I stared at the message, the tea going cold in my hand. For the first time, I heard the scrape of a blade under his smile. The morning started like any other. Coffee hissing in the machine, Chloe hunched over her math homework, Ivy still asleep in the second bedroom. I opened the banking app to make the month's rent transfer. Habit. Ritual. The number on the screen hit like a brick to the chest. Balance, $0.31. I blinked, refreshed. Same number. The $72,000 I'd guarded like a second child was gone. Mom? Chloe's voice was small. Why do you look like that? I couldn't answer. My thumb scrolled to the transaction history. The money hadn't vanished. It had moved. Transfer. Large. Not to any account I recognized. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. Go brush your teeth, I said, too sharp. She didn't move. Is it the house money? Her eyes told me she already knew. Kids know when the ground shifts. By the time Ivy stumbled out in a sweatshirt, hair a mess, I was waiting in the kitchen. Where's my money? Her head snapped up. What? The savings. All of it. She froze. Too long. Then shrugged. You probably clicked something wrong, or maybe the bank messed up. 72,000 doesn't click wrong. I held out my phone. Explain this. She barely glanced. Don't start, Dana. I didn't touch your account. My account, I repeated, voice shaking. Not ours, not yours, mine. Chloe sat silent at the table, pencil gripped like a weapon. Ivy's eyes darted toward the hallway. Ryan said he could help you invest. Maybe he... Ryan! My pulse slammed. You gave him access? She folded her arms. It's not what you think. He knows people. He's smart. He's a stranger. He's not. Her voice cracked. He cares about me. About us. I laughed, bitter. He cares about whatever you handed him on a silver platter. Chloe looked between us, her voice barely above a whisper. Mom, is Uncle Ryan the reason the house money's gone? The room went still. Ivy's face drained. Don't call him that, she snapped at Chloe. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. If you let him touch that money, Ivy, then he's not just your problem. He's mine. She bit her lip, eyes wet but defiant. You'll see. He's different. No, I said, cold. He's predictable. A knock rattled the door just then. 3 hard raps. Ivy flinched like she'd been caught. Chloe whispered, It's him. And in that second, I knew the dream of a house with a front door I could lock had already cracked wide open. Ryan didn't show his face again for 3 days. Long enough for Ivy to unravel. She paced the apartment like a caged animal, her phone glued to her hand, whispering in corners. Every time I asked where he was, she snapped, He's working things out, Dana. He'll fix this. Fix what? I demanded. You gave him $72,000 of my money. There's nothing to fix, except returning it. Her silence was answer enough. On the 4th morning, she cracked. She was hunched over the kitchen counter, eyes red, when she finally admitted it. He said he could double it. Investments, fast turnaround. I gave him access, and now... Her breath hitched. He's gone. The words settled over the kitchen like smoke. Chloe froze with her spoon midair. I slammed the cabinet door shut. Gone where? I don't know. Did you even ask? Her voice turned brittle. You don't understand, Dana. He promised. I laughed, sharp, ugly. Promised? Men like him don't promise. They bait, and you... I stopped, forcing the words down. You let him gamble with my daughter's future. Chloe's small voice broke in. He didn't just gamble. He stole. The room fell quiet. Ivy blinked at her like she hadn't realized Chloe was listening. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch staring at Augusta's binder, the ghost of 72,000 mocking me from my phone. Ivy's door creaked open sometime after midnight. She slipped out in a hoodie, whispering into her phone. I'll find a way, Ryan. Just come back, please. The door clicked shut behind her. I waited until the lock turned, then exhaled. She wasn't going to save me. The next morning, Chloe slid a notebook across the table to me. She'd written dates, times, little notes in handwriting too neat for a 9-year-old. What's this? I asked. Proof, she whispered, because nobody's going to believe you without it. And in that moment, I realized my daughter was already doing the job my sister should have done years ago. Ivy sat on the edge of the couch, shoulders hunched, Her phone clutched like a lifeline. Chloe lingered at the doorway, tablet hugged to her chest, eyes wide. I set the forged loan printout on the coffee table between us like evidence in a trial. "Tell me," I said, my voice thin with restraint. "Tell me you didn't put my name on this." Her lips trembled. "Dana, I was desperate. Desperate," I cut in. "I was working doubles to keep the lights on while you were sneaking my name onto loans? Do you even realize what this could have done to me? To Chloe? I thought I could pay it back." Her hands flew up, shaking. "It was supposed to be temporary." "Temporary?" My laugh was harsh. "You borrowed $40,000 with a fake signature and then gave Ryan, Marcus, access to my savings. Do you even hear yourself?" Ivy pressed her palms against her face. "I didn't mean for it to spiral. He found the papers, Dana. He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd expose everything. He had me trapped." "You weren't trapped," I snapped. "You had choices. You could have told me. You could have faced me instead of hiding behind his grin." Her eyes shot up, bloodshot and wild. "And what would you have done? Thrown me out? Called the cops? You always act like you're above me, like you're the only one allowed to screw up. I was drowning, and he listened." My throat tightened. "Listened? He didn't listen, Ivy. He took. And you handed him the knife to stab me with." She flinched as if I'd struck her. I didn't know what else to do. "You knew enough to lie," I said coldly. The silence between us was thick. Chloe shifted, her voice small but firm. "Aunt Ivy, you hurt Mom, and me too." Ivy's face crumpled. She reached toward Chloe, but Chloe backed into the doorway. "Don't," Chloe said softly. "Not until you fix it." The air cracked with the sound of Ivy's phone buzzing again. She glanced at the screen, then shoved it under a pillow, but I'd seen the name. "Marcus. He wants to meet," she whispered. "He says if I don't bring him new documents, he'll—" The knock at the door cut her off. 3 sharp raps. I froze. Ivy went pale. I crossed the room and yanked it open. Detective Sandra Klein stood in the hallway, badge glinting, jaw set. "Dana Brooks?" she asked. "Yes," I managed. Her gaze swept the room, then landed on Ivy. "Marcus Duval has resurfaced, and if you two want to stop him before he ruins more lives, you're going to have to come clean with me. Right now." Detective Sandra Klein stood in the doorway like she owned the space. Her badge caught the dim light of the kitchen, her expression carved from stone. Ivy shrank into the couch cushions, twisting her sleeves around her wrists. Chloe hovered behind me, tablet hugged to her chest, eyes darting between all of us like she was the only one keeping score. "Marcus Duval," Sandra began, her voice cutting the air, "isn't some charming boyfriend who lost his way. He's a career con. Credit fraud, wire scams, fake businesses. He's left a trail in 3 states, sometimes under Cutter, sometimes under half a dozen other names. You," she pointed directly at Ivy, "are just his latest prop." Ivy's lip trembled. "I'm not—" "Yes, you are," Sandra snapped. "You opened the door. You gave him access, and now he's using you and your sister as cover. If you don't cooperate, he'll vanish, and this $72,000 will look like pocket change compared to what he does next." Ivy's wide eyes darted to me, pleading. "Dana, I can't. If I tell her everything, he'll ruin me. He'll tell everyone about the loan." The word loan tasted like ash in my mouth. I leaned forward, fists clenched. "You already ruined yourself when you forged my name. He's just cashing in on it." Ivy flinched like I'd struck her. I was drowning. I thought if I signed your name, I could get ahead, pay it back before you noticed. Then Marcus found out. He said if I didn't do what he wanted, he'd expose me. He had me trapped. You weren't trapped. My voice rose, sharp. You had a choice. You could have told me. You could have faced me. Instead, you handed him the knife to use against us. Her eyes burned red, hot with guilt and anger all at once. You think you've never made mistakes? You act like you're perfect, like you're the saint who always saves the day. I was scared, Dana. Scared of you, scared of him, scared of everything. Chloe stepped forward, her small voice slicing the room cleaner than either of us. You should have been scared of lying. Ivy whipped her head toward her, stunned. Chloe's chin lifted, trembling but steady. You hurt Mom. You hurt me. And now you're still trying to protect him. Tears spilled down Ivy's cheeks. She reached for Chloe, but my daughter took a step back. Don't, Chloe whispered. Not until you help stop him. Sandra broke the silence with the authority of a judge delivering sentence. She's right. You want to claw back even a shred of what you destroyed? You work with me. We bait him. We trap him. You walk away with a record, but maybe not prison time. You stay silent. You go down with him. Ivy's breath rattled out of her chest. Bait him how? Sandra pulled the forged loan from the table and tapped it. He thinks this is his leverage. We use it. You text him, tell him you'll hand it over. He won't be able to resist. That's when we move. Ivy's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped her phone. She typed slow, halting words, every letter a confession. Minutes dragged. Then the buzz came, sharp in the quiet. Her voice was barely audible as she read, Airport, tomorrow night. Long-term parking, Gate C. Bring the papers or he leaves for good. Sandra leaned in, her expression razor-sharp. Perfect. That's where we end this. Ivy's eyes welled again, her voice breaking. You don't understand. He won't go quietly. He'll fight. Sandra's reply was cold, certain. Then he'll lose. The room held its breath. Chloe gripped my hand tight, as if anchoring me. And I knew this wasn't just a sting operation. It was the last chance to decide if Ivy was sister or accomplice. The next night, the airport's long-term parking lot glowed under harsh sodium lights, a concrete maze of shadows and exhaust. Planes roared overhead, engines rolling like thunder. I sat in the back seat of Sandra Klein's unmarked sedan, binder pressed tight against my chest. Ivy was in the passenger seat, pale and jittery, her fingers tapping against the door handle like she was counting down to a verdict. Chloe sat beside me, refusing to stay home, notebook open in her lap like she was the court reporter of our lives. Sandra adjusted her earpiece, eyes locked on the mirrors. He said, Gate C, Level 2. He'll want you visible, Ivy. No theatrics. You walk to the spot, you hold the folder like it's gold, and you wait. Don't talk until he does. Ivy nodded, but her throat worked like she couldn't swallow. I leaned forward, voice low and sharp. If you hesitate, he'll smell it. You wanted a way out. This is it. Follow Sandra's lead. Easy for you to say, she whispered. He doesn't have dirt on you. I didn't flinch. No, he just stole my future. Chloe scribbled something in her notebook, then looked up at Ivy. Don't mess this up. Her small voice carried more weight than either of ours. Ivy nodded once, like she'd just been sworn in. Sandra parked near a concrete pillar. 2 plainclothes officers lingered at the far end, pretending to smoke. Another sat in a pickup truck, lights off. The trap was set. Go, Sandra said, handing Ivy the folder. Ivy stepped out into the cold night air, her silhouette fragile against the sweep of headlights. She walked toward the center of Level 2, folder clutched in white knuckles. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a figure emerged from between rows of cars. Ryan Cutter, Marcus Duval, wearing the same easy smile that had charmed my sister, the same smile Chloe had called a weapon. Well, he drawled, voice echoing. There's my girl. His eyes flicked to the folder. And my prize. Ivy's knees nearly buckled. Marcus, please, don't please me. His grin sharpened. Hand it over. And maybe I forget about that little forgery stunt of yours. Maybe I don't let Dana know what you did behind her back. Ivy's eyes flickered toward me. I stood in the shadows, every nerve screaming. Sandra's hand hovered at her side, waiting for the signal. Marcus stepped closer, voice dropping low. Do you know what happens to people who cross me? They vanish. Do you want to vanish, Ivy? Her breath hitched. She held the folder out, hands trembling. That was the moment Chloe chose to act. She slipped from the car, notebook under her arm, and bolted toward the terminal entrance. Security! She shouted, her voice carrying through the cavernous garage. Help! Over here! Marcus's head whipped around. The smile cracked. What the? From every corner, officers moved. The plainclothes by the pillar tossed their cigarettes aside and drew badges. The pickup truck headlights flared on. Footsteps pounded against concrete. Marcus lunged for the folder, but Ivy yanked it back at the last second. "No," she said, voice breaking but loud. "Not this time." "Freeze!" Sandra barked, drawing her weapon. Marcus spun, eyes darting, calculating an escape route. He made it 3 steps before the taller officer tackled him from behind, driving him hard into the pavement. The binder skidded across the floor, landing at Ivy's feet. "You betrayed me!" Marcus roared, thrashing as handcuffs snapped around his wrists. His eyes locked on Ivy, venom spilling. "You'll pay for this!" Ivy staggered backward, shaking so hard the folder nearly slipped from her hands. I rushed to her side, Chloe clutching my coat, Sandra standing guard over the chaos. "It's over," I said, though my heart didn't believe it yet. "It's done." But Marcus's laughter echoed as the officers dragged him toward the elevator, wrists bound, grin feral. "You think this ends with me? You think family forgives this kind of betrayal?" The sound rattled through the garage long after he was gone. The weeks after Marcus's arrest blurred into paperwork, hearings, and headlines. His mugshot ran on every local station. Ryan Cutter exposed as serial con man Marcus Duval. People who'd smiled at him in bars or trusted him with favors lined up to call him a fraud. For once, the world believed me before it believed Ivy. Detective Sandra Klein closed the file with professional finality. He'll face federal charges, wire fraud, identity theft, coercion. He won't see daylight for a long time. She looked at Ivy. "But your forgery puts you in a different column. Judge is recommending parole. You'll serve your time outside, but you'll serve it." Ivy nodded, eyes fixed on the table. She looked smaller than I remembered, like the years of excuses had finally collapsed inward. The conditions came down hard. Restitution payments from whatever job she could keep, mandatory counseling, and a court-ordered volunteer program in fraud prevention. Every week she'd stand in front of teenagers and college kids, confess how she'd signed her sister's name, how a con man had used her secret like a leash. The first time I went, I sat in the back row with Chloe. Ivy's voice shook as she read from her paper, but she didn't stop. She said the words out loud. "I betrayed my sister. I thought lies would save me. They almost destroyed us." Chloe leaned close to me, whispering, "She's finally telling the truth." Afterward, Ivy caught our eyes across the room. She looked terrified, but she still lifted a hand, the smallest wave. Chloe waved back without hesitation. I didn't. Not yet. On the walk home, Chloe clutched my hand. "She's trying," she said. "She is," I admitted. The words felt strange, but not untrue. When we reached our building, I glanced up at the door, at the lock I turned every night with ritual. My savings account would never look the same, the number still wounded from what was stolen. But Chloe's grip was steady, her eyes clear, and for the first time in months, I felt a future that wasn't written in fear. Behind us, Ivy called out, her voice breaking through the evening air. "Dana, don't give up on me." I didn't answer. I tightened my grip on Chloe's hand and walked inside, leaving the words hanging behind us, sharp as glass, waiting for time to decide if they'd cut or heal.